Yeah. Yeah, welcome to the show, everybody. I don't know if I'm being heard. Crowd's starting to get a little wilder because we just brought some real superstar power to this show. Yeah. All right, everybody, welcome to the show. 4 reels this time. We got 4 people on the set. We just got a little bit louder because we brought in some real star power. This is your live Friday night show for the next 90 minutes from the Monster Energy FIM Motocross of Nations at Ironman Raceway. I'm Jason Weigandt, Steve Matthes, Adam Wheeler, our first guest of the night. I got to knuckle it up with my man, Jeff Emig, veteran of Motocross of Nations, victories for Team USA, and, of course, fans that are starting to roll in. The parade is still just wrapping up downtown in Crawfordsville, but get loud back there. And as that parade from downtown wraps, more and more people are going to come in and join us. Emig is unbelievable with this. Look at this.
Yeah, he's Jeff Emig. He's pro.
He's Jeff Emig.
What, he went 7 times to this race? 9? Six times.
6
Unbelievable.
times.
3 wins, 3 not wins.
Look, man, I know you used to be hard on yourself for that, but it's okay. Just say 6 times and 3 wins. It sounds fine.
Yeah, it was a good run.
Yes.
You ride this event as a racer, and it's interesting because you end up being teammates with your rivals.
Yeah.
Right? And so you really have to put that to the side, and then everybody sort of work together. And I think that, especially like last year with Australia winning, there is a real cohesiveness to what they're doing. And I think that that's part of the sort of secret sauce of what it takes to win this.
Team USA has done a better job. It was really impressive last year in England, the infrastructure that they built. I think a lot of people have been copying the French team, which was way ahead of everyone on that. They've gotten a lot better at that cohesion. There was none of it for a long time. When you were racing, Jeff, how did the pits work? Were you guys, I'm with all the Cowie guys, or I'm with all the Yamaha guys, or I'm with my teammates? How did that work back then? Because they're trying to bring it back together now.
Yeah, that was back in the 90s. Like when my first trip to Nations was Australia, Manjum up in 1992, we had some cargo trucks that we were working out of, and we were kind of in the same area. I'd just seen Roy Jansen earlier at the parade. If you guys weren't at the parade, was it being broadcast?
It was, yeah. And it's just wrapping up. It was awesome.
Crawfordsville knows how to parade.
It's Oktoberfest as well, right?
What's that?
Oktoberfest as well. Did you have some beer there?
There. I believe there were some beers going down. Yes. And being an Englishman, I'm sure you know. It's great. But so, there were times where you were a little bit separated, but certainly when you come to this event as an athlete, you sort of put the grudges aside and say, okay, now we're all 3 team members and we got to work together on this. And that adds a really interesting dynamic, because these are guys, let's face it, McGrath and I were on the same team twice, and in the 90s, we didn't play nice together. You know what I mean? But especially 96 when we went to Spain, and Lamson and McGrath, myself, we had a day of days. And, you're hoisting the Chamberlain Trophy and you're together, and it's that's why this race is like nothing else that we do all year long.
I think we're seeing some shots of things that went down today. It included the press conferences. So the Lawrence is hanging out with the camaraderie that you mentioned. Helps when you have 2 brothers on the same team. There was start practice today and that big parade downtown. It's weird how this race goes, Jeff. It's like it goes through these phases of everybody wants to do it, then people don't want to do it. For the Americans, I feel for the European side, it's more built into their regular calendar. Is it maybe starting to ramp back up with the riders today?
Well, I think it depends on the individual riders and
I see.
And how they think of it. It's very this is a big production these days. It has a lot of value to the rider. In more ways than just there's a paycheck or a win bonus or something like that, and there was a time that opened the door for when Team USA had won 12 years in a row.
13.
But it was 12 years in a row. No, I'm sorry, 11 years in a row, and then Stanton, Bradshaw, Kedrowski were the A team, and they didn't want to ride.
Yeah.
And then Billy Lyles was in Europe. He's like, I'll go.
Yeah.
Rode the 500 Honda. Mike LaRocco and I were both battling for the 125 title. We're like, we'll go. Yeah, let's go. And so we came with the right sort of motivation where, Team USA had won all these years in a row, and everybody's like, oh, it's kind of getting too close. And then there was fresh meat. Like, let's go. Let's do this. And so that made a big difference because we had the right attitude.
USA needed a couple of Stanton takeouts to win the previous year, I believe.
But that was Sweden.
They needed Jeff to take care of business in the back.
Yeah,
but
it's just,
it was getting tight, like you said. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a race like none other because you've got 2 classes in each of the 3 motos, right? So 6 individual scorers, and you're racing. It's madness. And luckily, we have timing and scoring now, right? So you've got, it makes it somewhat easier.
Yeah.
But the way that it's scored these days is your running position on the track is your score. So, if you're a 250 rider, you're riding the MX2 class, you may be 8th in the running order, and you get scored with 8th. Well, there was a time where, let's say the 125 class, if you were 5th on the track, that was the first because you were the first 125. And it was like a shell game back then because Team USA had won so many times. And it was like, what do we got to do? Count all motos, count no motos,
Water the track a lot?
Yeah.
Water the track a lot?
There was some sort of, there was an irrigation leak in Nîmes, Belgium.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
In 1997. We had a great team that year, too, with Steve Lamson, John Dowd, myself. I mean, we were all at the top of our game. And we show up for a warm-up on Sunday. Dude.
Yeah, but to be fair, though, Jeff, the last GP there was also a complete washout. So it might just be that climate in that area.
That's just where they,
Yeah.
Or the water.
It didn't rain, but the track was flooded. I'm not really sure. Maybe I missed it. That cell didn't go over my hotel.
But Weege, I mean, surely the fact that this is the 3rd Motocross of Nations in the US in the last 7 years is also partly responsible for maybe this increasing profile, like you say.
Probably. I think people just, when you see it, then you realize it's easy to just tune it out, I'm sure, if you don't do it and just not pay attention. But once it's...
Oh, shit.
Oh!
Oh, my God. That's
we almost hurt Jeff Emig.
Oh, my Lord. You can't do that.
That could have been bad.
Still the athlete, the reaction time of a champion there. Well done. Didn't even go down.
Chase, that's going to be an awesome replay for you. I'm sure they're going to slow-mo it.
You didn't pull anything.
Luckily, I think we're showing last year's battle here going on.
Yeah, we didn't see it.
Yeah, between Geyser and Eli Tomac.
Oh my gosh, last year's race was amazing.
Woo! When we almost lost Emig. That would have been.
We almost lost Jeff Emig right off the stage.
Yeah,
wow.
Yes.
I've got a race tomorrow right here. Right over there, we're doing the
whole shot.
Jeremy McGrath.
Yes, right here, right?
Challenge.
Yep. Yes.
Monster, you guys want to see the whole shot challenge tomorrow? Who do you think's going to win, McGrath or me? That's right.
Cheap Heat.
Yep.
Here we go.
He's the one sitting here, so everybody says you.
Yeah.
No, you know what? I mean, again, the Motocross of Nations was here in 1987. First time ever at Unadilla, and then, didn't come back until
20 years.
20 years later, back to Budds Creek. That event was fantastic. Maybe still the craziest after party I've ever been part of on Sunday night.
Not the best parking setup.
The what?
Not the best parking setup.
No, not the best parking setup. But the after party was amazing. And then, like to Weege's point, we got it back here to Red Bud now, again, Adam, 3 in 7 years. I absolutely think that's a big deal. Yeah. And they've always been very successful, right? The Americans show up for this thing. They love it. And I think that's a big part of it. And Cooper Webb last year stepping up. Justin Cooper stepping up this year. It's really cool to see.
Yeah, I think one of the strongest features of this event is just the cosmopolitan nature of it. You have pockets of fans from, pretty much all over the world, people traveling to make it, this event what it is. And if you bring it to the US, then I think you have the combination of the star power plus all this fans and this kind of community aspect. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you think of Ernée, when, Team USA won again in 2005, then, you see those fans and the flags and everything, and it really boosted the Motocross of Nations after a couple of lean years where the US were not traveling, or we had that fiasco in 2002 where it was supposed to happen here and ended up being in
I thought you were going to tell me the year I was on the team. Was that a fiasco?
That was
you
fiasco.
said fiasco.
Yeah, fiasco.
And I was like,
you're waiting.
He's going when I was a mechanic.
He's going 03. He's going.
No, I think that's what you had, like B teams and C teams, racing in Belpuig. I mean, it was the nadir, I guess you could say, of the nations. But then since 05, and those visions in Ernée is why I think we see the nations keep going back to France in that particular venue, because the whole valley setting, it's
just uber successful. I mean, these fans are already. I mean, it's Friday evening. I can't even count how many motorhomes are here. It's gonna be mega.
Yeah,
and it's just such a great atmosphere, and it's I think it should be competitive again. I mean, on paper, you go, okay, we're all kind of working it out, but you still have to go out and ride the motos. And I think Team USA, even though Deegan was out, an unbelievable replacement. So I think Justin Cooper's going to be fantastic on that too with the Yamaha.
Last year's race, we just watched some highlights of that. That's really the essence of it. The race was so good because we got this collision of eras when you think of all the riders that were on the gate. And some of them are battling for the team victory. I mean, I don't think Slovenia is considered a contender, but you still get Tim Geiser out there. That's, to me, what makes it fun. Like, we've never seen Lucas Koenen and Jet Lawrence really on a track together. Yeah. You only get it at this race. That's what makes it so cool to me.
Yeah, I mean, Koenen's only 18 years old. I mean, Jet's 22. I mean, Jet's won 10 titles already. Koenen came so close in his debut year to winning MXGP, the youngest GP winner in the history of the sport. There's fantastic potential there. And I think, seeing those two go together, and we just done a podcast this evening, and I said, I think the individual battles in the different classes this year will be quite tasty because, I mean, Team Australia have such a strong setup. And I think it's really curious, the brothers dynamic, how they can sort of help each other even more, because like what Jeff was saying with teammates, how you come together with rivals. I mean, that's obviously not an issue for Australia, or perhaps it wasn't in the with Team France in the past, with Sebastian and Christophe Pourcel. That's where they have the advantage.
That run that France went on, which was what year?
Yeah, it was like 5-6 years.
It's all blurry for me, but I mean, they were so, when we were in Italy, right, and like just you're watching that and you're going, oh man, like I've been in those places before, but they're just all so locked in and like supporting each other. And it was 4 or 5 years.
2014 in Latvia, I think, was the beginning of it. It went all the way up,
It was 5 in a row.
Yeah,
5 in a row.
5 in a row.
With 5 different teams.
Well, Paul Ann, I think, was the constant.
Yeah, but I mean, none of the 3-man teams were the same.
Yeah.
And so that's incredible. I think that's an amazing. They picked a Charlier, an enduro rider.
Yeah, they had Ferrandis, they had Roman Febvre, and he won the class in the year that he won the World Championship for the first time. He represented the team on home turf. It doesn't get more high pressure than that.
Yeah.
But a real kind of eclectic group of riders. But then France have been so strong with their federation program and supporting young talent. They've been probably behind the US, I'd say, the most powerful motocross nation in the world.
And I think that's why the 2018 Redbud. Anybody at Redbud in 2018?
I was there.
It's a great time.
I was there.
You were there. It was a great time.
Yeah, my car was stuck. I had to.
There was a lot of.
Tim Ritchie had to bring a bulldozer to pull my car out on Monday morning.
How about those rental charges afterwards?
Yeah, right.
Dude.
I left my shoes abandoned in the field.
Yeah, just leave them there. Yeah.
It was a good time. The Team USA performance was dismal, and I think that's when everyone realized France must be doing something. You can't keep lucking into this with different riders, different tracks, conditions, whatever. They keep winning. And I think that's when we saw this infrastructure start to come into play. Because we were up in the tower watching the start. It was comedy.
Yeah.
How disorganized the team was. The final moto of the day, there was like the 4th gate from the inside, a very valuable gate, was just sitting there empty. So the 2 Dutch guys, they got gates 3 and 4. And I went to Justin Barsham, I'm like, why didn't you take that gate? He's like, we didn't know.
Yeah,
I'm like, you didn't have anyone on the radio? They're like, no.
Yeah, but Weege also as well.
So they got better.
In 2018 is another glorious thing of this event because it was the Glen Colden Half Nations.
It was.
I mean, 2 moto victories. Where did that come from?
Oh,
yeah.
in the Netherlands.
Yeah, and then,
Redbud.
you had a freaky thing with Philander and having the goggle problem. And
they didn't win.
The Netherlands should have perhaps won that edition.
Oh, they should have.
And then you have...
Hey, people are working their way back from the parade.
They are.
So France, I think, changed the game. I think then people realized they're onto something, and I think every team has gotten smarter. They're not just, we give 3 fast riders and 3 bikes and go for it. I think they're a lot smarter with the way they approach it. Definitely Team USA and probably some others. I want to go back to the rivalry thing. What was so cool about some of your years, you raced Stefan Everts a couple years in different classes here, right?
Oh, yeah.
And that's what's so interesting because how often did you ever race him outside of the Nations? Probably hardly ever.
Maybe like a European Supercross in the fall.
But that's so cool that you guys have a couple of races where you got to battle each other.
Yeah. My first Motocross of Nations ever in 1992, Manjimup, Australia. We're coming through the pack in the first moto, and he goes to stuff me in this turn, and we both fall down on each other. And I can't get up, he can't get up, our bikes are laying on each other type of thing. And he was the world champion. I was on my way to becoming the U.S. champion. And especially back then, there was a really big AMA versus FIM. And, most of the AMA riders were from here. They're from America, so it was kind of USA versus
Yeah.
the world, and there certainly was that rivalry where it's like, who are the better riders?
Yeah, we see much more. I mean, look at right now in America. We got Germans, we got French riders, we got Australian riders, we got Japan. We have Denmark. That didn't happen back in your day. Jean-Michel Bale, and that was it.
Yeah. So, that's one of the elements that makes this race so interesting. And, I also want to make sure that I mention our sponsors here with Alpine Star. We got FMF right here.
Oh, look at Jeff.
Not
throwing
sure
this
if you
in
guys realize, but I actually make levers with ASV levers. Yes.
We're going to give some away.
We're going to give away.
We're going to give some away.
We got some giveaways for
ASV
you.
levers, best levers in the world. I happen to make a combo pack with the Emig Pro V2
Oh,
lock-on grip
okay.
and the Emig levers. So if you want to check that out that on ASV. So I'm going to make sure I get that.
They're unbreakable levers.
They are.
They cannot be broken.
No.
Cannot be broken.
No. A lot of these riders out here, you guys all ride? I know you guys fall down all the time. I've seen some of you guys. They can't ride very well, and they fall down all the time. That's why they need the ASV unbreakable.
I mean,
I coach
they're not
you guys
saying
all
no.
the time.
I could use them
Jerry,
myself.
Corey over here, my buddies Jerry and Corey, dude, they can't ride.
They need some unbreakable
They have
levers.
motorcycles, but they don't really ride.
They need some unbreakable levers. Yes. Thanks to Alpine Stars and
How are we
FMF
giving these away, by the
and
way?
ASV. I don't know. We'll figure that out. I got to do a commercial break here. Jeff Emig, thanks for stopping by. We got
pleasure.
more guests coming up. But Fro, one of the all-timers, 6 times he's stepped up for the team. Who cares?
Legend.
The result.
Legend.
Absolute
Jeff Emig.
legend.
Yep.
Let's hear it for Jeff Emig. We're going to a break. We'll be right back.
Thank you, guys.
Hey, we're back. That was quick.
Come on,
Hey,
Weigandt.
crowd's starting to fill in. We got fat heads back there. We have a new guest on our show. Let's have a round of applause for Chad Reed, everybody. Want to mention some of the sponsors here. We are going to talk to Chad here in a moment. We got the Tech 10 boot right here. Perfection through true innovation.
Chad wore those.
Long time on those Yamaha days for sure. Ultimate in protection and feel, and for the ultimate ride, Alpine Stars Tech 10 boots. Alpine Stars protects. We have FMF always backing these shows, always backing grassroots and privateer riders. Tons of dudes when they race to GNCC back here.
Did you
they
see their,
own the
did you see their
off-road
custom
scene.
exhaust for Eli Tomac and
Yeah,
Justin
and
Cooper?
Team USA,
Team
huge
USA.
support for Team USA. I'm going to talk about the different exhaust, by the way. The bikes are shockingly quiet when you hear start practice today. So that's FMF. More power, more wins, more fun. The official exhaust of Team USA, AMA Pro Motocross, and MXGP. Over 50 years of American power. And then ASV levers, as our man Emig said. They're unbreakable. You can get it at the combo pack. Also, Maxxis tires, chasing checkered flags through dust, rocks, and mud. They're crown champions and racking up wins where tires go to die and surviving.
I used the scoop, Maxxis scoop, to not qualify for
qualify
Loretta's.
Loretta's.
I didn't qualify, but I had the Maxxis scoop on, yeah.
Who helped develop those tires?
Jeremy McGrath.
Jeremy
Some
McGrath.
guy named Jeremy
not
McGrath.
bad.
Yeah,
He'll
not
probably
bad.
have them in the whole shot challenge. All right, let's welcome Chad Reed to the show.
Yep.
Hold
on.
You can cheer all you want.
I want to ask the first question.
Yeah, please.
So, Motocross of Nations, amazing race, incredible. Maybe the pinnacle would be winning on your home soil as a rider, any country, right? But that's probably the pinnacle. Right behind that, in my opinion, is winning a moto at the Motocross of Nations, something you did at least once. St. Jean Angeli, I believe it was. What's that like, where you're just like, hey, all the best guys are here, and I just kicked your ass? That's got to be, as a rider, an amazing feeling.
Yeah, I've won a couple of motos at the Nations. I won my first one in 2001, racing as I was getting ready to come to America.
Namur.
At Namur, which was more like a trail than a track. And then obviously in St. John's. But yeah, I mean, I think that, you obviously want to win.
Yeah.
Especially, when you, I guess, for me personally, I've been to a lot of these, and if I'm really honest, Europe has a certain feeling for donations, but I can honestly say it's been 10 years since I've been to a donations, and walking around showing my kids, like, Ironman's crushed it, because the
awesome.
vibe, that just that core feeling that donations has.
Yeah.
America found air horns. So I just love the fact that, as a dad, you talk it up, you tell how cool it is. You know, my kids follow MXGP and they have all their, their personal riders that they like. But for me, Mom and I have an attachment to the European side of it, and I've never been any part of it. And again, even as cool as Budds Creek was in '07, this is cool, and we haven't even started racing yet.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for the weekend.
That's awesome. No, that's great. You had some great rides at MXTNs over the years too.
You didn't win that moto in '09, but that was one of the best battles. You just talked about that on your podcast.
Still
you
one
and
of-
Caroli.
Yeah.
Wheeler, you said that's a highlight for you of any moto you've ever watched at
Still
this
one
race.
of the best races I've seen.
In Italy, that's Italy, right?
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
Italy.
yeah.
On the road racetrack. It was, and I talked about it with Tony this morning, and the track was it was so cool. No one knew it. It wasn't a local track for the Italians. It was like the first time we all got to ride it, and it had a real good blend of European motocross and American motocross all thrown in one, and I think for me personally, it was one of my favorites just because of the track. I was the AMA champion. Tony was the MXoN champion. So yeah, just all the vibes were meeting at one time.
And that's what we said about Emig when he was talking about getting to race Stefan Everts. I'm sure you have a lot of respect for Tony, as he does for you, but you probably didn't get to race each other that much.
No, not at all. And I just was listening to what Fro had to say, and I couldn't agree more because the dynamic of Motocross of Nations has changed so much. It really used to be the USA versus the world, and now it's really the AMA, and you got Jet, Hunter, Joe, a lot of the AMA-based guys that are all being somewhat adopted as Americans. Like it never used to be like that, like again, America dominated America very much, where now it's Americans are not really winning on their home soil. So
I think
It is
there's
true.
less of a...
I'm sorry. Hey, I can't win this weekend. I hold 2 passports.
Yeah.
Maybe you can't lose. Maybe you can't lose.
I actually meant I can't lose.
Yeah.
Because
Yes.
either way, I feel like I'm going to win.
There's less of a Ryder Cup vibe to it now. I think
it
in the
really
past,
does.
in 2008 in Donington Park, Ricky Carmichael had a security detail, and the Team USA compound had fencing around it to stop people getting to these guys, and there was a real aura around Team USA. But like you're saying, Chad, I think it's a lot more sort of dispersed now, the power base,
It
which
really-
makes for a better event.
Even just rewind to 2007 at Budds Creek, Budds Creek.
Yep.
Team USA were literally gated in, and you couldn't get to them. And we were just part of the rest of the world. Now it's it's more of a common area. Everybody is more on even playing field. I think that's healthy. I don't think that they should be accentuated away. I think that the world comes to see them and watch them, and I like the direction it's going.
And to your point, though, and let's be honest, now Jet Lawrence might race in America, but if you're coming here from France or the Netherlands or England, there's people that want to see him just as much as any of the Americans. I can't even imagine if we had Deegan racing this event, the fans that have been dying to see him that don't get to see him every weekend. So that's part of it. The American champ isn't always an American. He's part of some other team. Same thing with Ken Roxon was at his prime. He might have been the most popular rider in the sport. He was racing here, but he was part of the German team. So it's spread out as far as who the fans want to see, probably compared to what it was back then.
Yeah. And ultimately, the AMA championship holds a certain clout, and the MXGP, and they're all equal. And we just, once upon a time, it used to be very dominated by one country, and now it's spread out. And so it just changed a little bit the dynamic of it.
Boy, you guys had some great teams. Mehdi,
That's how I was gonna
Berner, yourself, Andrew McFarlane. You guys came so close. Look, the Lawrences and Webster got it done for Australia, but you guys had some moments where we were like, hey, dude, I think Australia's going to win. Never quite got it, but damn.
It was always tough because, and again, you look at all the teams today, and you can kind of okay, this team seems like this is the pecking order. But Donations is so gnarly because you just never know. I won motos at races and then came in and found out that my teammate was going to the hospital.
Yeah.
And that was it. My day was over.
Yeah.
Didn't matter if I went 1-1, and so many times that I dealt with that part where you'd go out, you'd be on the podium, and then your guys, didn't make it. Bikes failed, something broke. And so you just never know what's going to happen. It really does take 3 individuals coming together as a race team and performing. You need 5 strong finishes.
Yeah, that's why you look at USA's run of 13 straight, and they came close so many times. The one time an Italian rider, Puzard, couldn't make the Parc Ferme. That was it for that. Another time Stanton had to take care of business in the back. Or France's recent run, so many things have to go right to win this thing. So when you watch somebody do it year in and year out, you're like, wow, like that's pretty hard to do.
And even Australia last year, you think of how good it was. Webster went, I believe, like 12, 19.
Yeah.
It's not that solid, but yet the whole team as a whole won the event.
Yeah.
And it just shows you that you need all three guys swinging for the fences, and you need performances from everybody.
It's been a while since an American rider won an overall in a class, right, at this race? Am I?
A moto, you mean? Or
No,
won
the
class?
overall, like they won the overall in MX2, MXGP, or
Now you're
MX3.
making me think about it.
Was it Tomac?
I think it's been a while.
Wasn't Tomac in Redbud?
No,
years ago?
I don't think Tomac ever won the overall.
Oh.
But anyways, it's been a while since the Americans have just swept the classes. When they've done well or won, they've been on the podium.
Oh yeah,
every
those
time.
days of like going 1-2, 1-2,
Right.
1-2 in motos. It's gotten too competitive. We haven't seen any nation be able to do that. I want to ask about the camaraderie thing. What was the atmosphere like when it was you, Burner, Mehdi, you, Burner, McFarlane, or whatever the combination was? Did you guys try to? We're going to be different. Maybe you were friends already. But did you try to operate differently than any other weekend?
My first time was in 2000 in France. It happened to be a weekend that France had shut down, locked down. There was no fuel, no diesel, so it was weird.
What track was that?
Saint Jean's.
Oh, Saint Jean. Okay.
And it was always funny because Andrew and Burner were really close, and then I was kind of like from a different state and younger, and so we didn't necessarily hate each other, but we didn't get on necessarily great. But then you get on that plane and you're just best friends. It was like you helping, you're walking the track together, you're eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner. That camaraderie, you can't. Like for me, that's what is old school donations. I think now it's so big, and you take all your team members, and now you need a suspension guy, electronics guy, engine guy, like all these different people. Where it used to be just a Motorcycling Australia guy, you're one mechanic, and then the riders. There's something to be said how core and how cool that was.
When I went with Red Dog, there was two of us.
Yeah.
It was me and Gothic.
Yeah, now you're just
Here you go.
18 of you to do one person's
Yeah,
job.
yeah, like you're absolutely right. It's changed a lot that way for sure.
So that part's changed, and then now I look at later on, I was a part of the multiple people. You needed suspension guys and electronics guys.
You started all that.
Yeah, I did. You had to keep up with the U.S.
Well,
right?
because MotoGP, you love MotoGP, so you're like, let's do that.
So I always loved it. Like, just your teammates were just different people on that one weekend. Whether you got on, you didn't get on, you were always super close with them. You were best friends, shared things that you would never share, and that was always special.
Who was on the team in 2011, Chad, back in St. John? Because
Metcalf and Matt Moss.
Was that the first podium for Australia?
First podium, yes.
Yeah.
We were like fourth a couple times. I had won the moto in Namur. And then finally we got on the podium. So
Burner broke his wrist in Namur, I think.
Broke his wrist in Namur.
McFarlane went out at Bud's early, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like on the start
Yes,
straight.
Dude, it was like
so like all these
halfway
things,
down.
Right.
Yeah.
Two things I want to ask you. One, I didn't even realize you were on the 2000 team. I remember you winning the moto in 2001. So you were a guy that dreamed big. We know that. Did you look at this race in those early years as like, this is my chance to show the world? Maybe some people back in America where I want to be don't even know who I am yet. Did you look at it with a little extra motivation for that?
I look at like over the years of my particular path, like I was this Aussie kid, got on a plane, economy all the way to Europe. You do the hard yards. I think I went like 7, 8. I was riding a 426 that had a Rinaldi 450 kit on it. I'm 18 years old. Way too much motorcycle for me.
Wow.
And I was actually racing. I battled with Grant Langston the whole moto. And I remember I had rocks and bruises for a week or two.
And he was on a 125.
He was on a 125. But it was like I would catch him up the hills and he would pull away down the hills. I'd catch it. It was just like doing it at that point where you're just like, I remember looking at, at the time it was, Ricky had crushed everyone. It was the first time he went from being fat Ricky to skinny Ricky. And so I remember being like, wow, like TV really does put some pounds on you, but he's not even here to listen.
Yeah.
Damn it. Somehow
We'll get you that chance.
We're streaming live.
I think that was,
you had never seen him in person before, right?
you should see my group chat. I heard Emig say, there's a race tomorrow night, and maybe it was a performance, but now it's a race. It's turned into this ridiculous thing. Ricky, me.
Are you in?
We're doing this whole shot race.
Yeah,
You're in?
you're in.
If you're all bullet tomorrow night, you're
We
gonna
got some
see a
Chad
bunch-
Reed fans for the whole shot challenge tomorrow. Oh,
You're
I didn't
gonna
know
see
you were in.
You're gonna see a bunch of old guys acting like idiots.
Here's the problem with that whole shot challenge is everyone's going to take it way too seriously. And, there's no starting device, right? No blocks, nothing of that allowed, from what I
I
understand.
haven't heard no blocks. Ricky's
No,
not
there-
gonna be able to touch the ground.
I heard.
There's another rider that's asking for blocks.
Oh,
He's a short redhead, not named Ricky.
Oh.
Ryan
Ryan.
said, I got to get blocks.
No blocks. So, but you're all going to take it too seriously. Someone's going to get hurt.
You should see the group chat.
I bet.
It's amazing.
I bet.
You
It
should do
It
it.
should go public.
I should do it.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
was
yeah,
on-
he's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was on a factory Honda and couldn't even whole shot the guy who hasn't ridden for 10 years. So, yeah, I'm the worst guy.
Getting back to it,
Yeah.
for me, doing that, looking at like a Ricky Carmichael, a Stefan Evans, and you're just like this big fan, and I'm like, dude, how am I going to race my dirt bike against these guys? To then, 10 years later at, St. John's Angeles, same track, and I win the first moto. The fans look at me as being, one of the guys from America, and so just total polar opposites, and it was really fun to witness it one way and see it another way, and just respect. I love this event. It's so cool.
Wasn't the 2000 nations there at St. John the Pastrana nations
Yep.
as well? That's because they're big,
And
big
Ryan-
step
Oh, yeah.
downs.
Yeah.
I mean,
Ricky-
Pastrana was launching
yeah.
off this thing
That
and
thing was
skipped.
huge.
With
it
Ron
was
Ron, I
scary.
think. Ron and him, or I don't remember. But
It was Ron.
Yeah,
it
yeah.
was.
Yeah. France was like,
Yeah.
that was the one I'm sure they thought, man, whether we let that one get away.
I think
They've
they had,
certainly had their wins since.
Do we?
Botelli,
Do we?
yeah.
Chad's busy these days down at Club MX.
Chad's got a lot going on.
Do we?
Chad's got a lot going
Prado
on.
corner or no?
What's that?
Prado corner.
Do you want to do Prado?
I don't
Corner?
know.
You want to do Prado Corner?
It's part of it.
We have this tradition, folks, that
Yeah.
Jorge Prado
I
in
like
races
the way
he's not even in
Yeah.
or part of,
We-
including this one, we end up gravitating toward this topic.
Well, Chad worked with him, so how was that? Okay.
Do you want to go there at all?
No.
No. Right,
Okay, does not want to go there at all.
Welcome everybody to the end of Prado corner.
Well, we've got a
let's-
MXGP journalist here.
There is so much cool stuff going on. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, we're keeping it positive. You're a MXGP journalist. Saw
Yes.
Jorge Prado come up through the ranks.
Yep.
Win 4 world titles.
Yeah. Known him since he was like 15.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you think you saw this year?
I think, just briefly, he was stuck between a rock and a hard place. And in my opinion, the only thing that Jorge did badly was maybe talk a little bit too much before the season of this transition into a different world. I think he needed to be a little bit more hesitant, a bit more modest coming in. But other than that, I think he found himself in a position where he found it difficult to manage. And I think people have to respect the fact, I mean, Chad as well can testify to this, when you move to a different country, culture, series, team, everything was different for him compared to a guy who'd been on one particular brand with one set of sponsors in his entire life. I think he needed a bit more time to acclimatize, but I don't know. It ended up being a mess.
That is, it's Prado Pod.
Prado,
Prado
we're done.
Pod.
We're done.
We did it.
Okay,
we did Prado
We
Pod.
did it. They said it couldn't get done here, but we did it.
Yeah, we managed
Yeah.
to wedge it in there, even
right.
against Chad's wishes. So I want to ask you about the moving from a 450 to a 250, which Justin Cooper has now had to do. Cooper Webb did it last year. Was there any chance you would have been doing that?
I mean, if I was called upon and that was it made sense for the
yeah,
team.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
You would have done it.
Yeah.
You would have done it.
I
Would
mean,
you have liked
especially,
it?
I mean,
But he was always the best 450 guy. They were never going to
No,
do
I
that.
know. I
Right,
mean-
right.
Well, yes. It would take the right
Yeah,
circumstance.
right.
But would you have hated having to do it? Would you say, yes, I have to, but I'm not going to enjoy this? Or is there almost a little bit of like, wow, we're going to change it up so much there could actually be something fun in this to see how it goes?
Yeah, I think that Justin takes the fun part of
Yeah.
it. I think that on paper and for us, what we see, he's not getting on the worst bike.
No.
I think he's stepping onto a very competitive, a bike that is probably really fun to ride, honestly. I personally haven't rode it, but I've rode my son's, and it rips, and it's a really fun bike to ride. So I think that he just needs to make the most of it. I mean, he's a year and a half on 450.
That's
so
all, yeah.
Yeah.
I think, I listened to him ride, and you could tell that he had come off of 450. RPM was much lower than it needed to be. But throughout the weekend, he'll start finding the RPMs.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, Marvin Muscan did it,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah,
I mean,
and Cooper Webb said last year it took him until the second moto
yeah.
before he was like, okay, I remember how to ride this thing. It did take him a little bit. And he said by the second moto, I felt like I was back down again,
Hopefully JC's not a little quicker.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe practice tomorrow.
Yeah.
But But no, there's a
Yeah.
long history of that. Antonio Caroli dropped down one year. Marvin Musquin has dropped down. There's a long. Jeff Ward, we're going to come up here later. Jeff Ward dropped down to 125 one time.
And I mean, on the Australian team, Webster's jumping down. You
Yeah.
know,
He actually is,
Webster's the Australian MX champion.
So I have a bit of a scoop on that, by the way. I talked to some deep sources on
Oh.
that. He rode Webster rode Chance Hymas's factory Honda. They said, "How is it?" He goes, "It's awesome. Don't change a thing." And so they didn't. So there's your scoop. That's Chance Hymas's bike exactly as he rode it. So he really likes it. It's much better than his Australian bike.
I would really hope that is true.
But an MX2.
that the official
Yes.
HRC
Yes,
bike
yes.
is better than his.
They call me a
Australian bike.
journalist, and this is why. This is why.
You're
But
so good.
in the MX2 class this year, you needed an Austrian bike. I mean, you needed to be on a KDM or a Husqvarna. I mean, those were the bikes getting the result. I think they had the.
Well, I think that's been that way for 20 years. But,
Well, no, I mean, we've had fast Kawasaki's and
Yeah.
the Yamahas at a spell. I mean, Jago Hertz was
Yeah.
like fighting for the world championship, but this year it's just been those Austrian bikes.
One more thing I was going to ask you about Team Australia. They've lucked into this situation where they're all Honda guys. They get to work out of one truck just kind of organically. And how about the team manager, our guy Lars, who I can't believe is not on this show because he does every interview,
he likes interviews. Yep.
somehow has Australian heritage with this race already because of you. Talk about bringing your own team over there.
He already claimed that this morning. He goes,
Okay.
I've already done this.
Oh.
The shirt just fits just fine. Lars was my mechanic when I won at St. John's Lingerie in 2011. So, he's excited for the moment. And again, Honda, even when I did it, they really embraced the team atmosphere. And you can see that. I mean, both their boys are, bleed red, and they've had a great year, and you can see them rallying around it. And so I think, I'm not surprised by any of that. They did that 10 years ago.
And then don't forget about Oscar, the Swedish miracle. He's his other guy. Oscar, I said, hey, he's worked for Chad at this race for Australia, beaten Sweden. This morning I said, where's your Swedes at? He said, I don't know. That's Lars's department.
That's Lars.
So
okay.
Oscar's checked out of Sweden.
Sweden.
Yeah. Really sad. I don't know what happened, but yeah, he's out.
So Oscar is Swedish.
Yep.
He's helping out Australia, obviously.
Yep.
Japan on the side.
Yep.
He'll help anybody. The only one they don't have to help is an American, oddly.
Right.
With Lars.
Right.
This
right.
weekend, he's Team France.
Yeah, he's France this weekend. Good point.
The
Yep.
whole Cowie
Yeah.
rig is France.
Yep.
So.
Oh, is that? Yeah. So that is another cool thing that's probably under
I've never
discussed
seen
how
that
this
happen,
works.
actually.
What's that?
There's one a Yamaha rider, right? One
Yeah,
of
in Renault.
Oh, with
like
France,
there's
yeah.
two Cowie guys and then one Yamaha guy, and they're allowing him under the Kawasaki factory
With the
That's
Yamaha
cool,
bike.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they need kudos because that's really cool.
Yeah,
It doesn't fit any narrative that I have within the 30 years that I've been
Yeah.
doing this.
No, you're right.
And
Yeah, yeah.
I think it's quite cool.
I saw Kai de Wolf and Liam Everett's
And
off
they're-
at easy ups, and I'm
Yeah.
like, what? And they're
It's a
like,
Husky.
they're
Come
like,
on.
oh, it's a different energy drink, and I'm like, oh, here we go,
dude.
here we go. Like we can't even do that. Like
And here we are,
Yeah.
one semi over,
it's
has a
completely
Yamaha under the
different
factory
brand.
Kawasaki
Right.
rig.
Yeah.
That's part I think people don't even realize how that works, especially when it comes here. How the American teams, trucks, mechanics, whatever, have to pitch in to be like, we got you.
Yeah.
I don't think enough people realize, and it's the same thing when the race goes over there.
Yeah, it's a ton of things. Like Tony Berluti, a good friend of mine, he never worked for an American rider. He worked for Australians and Frenchmen and
he wears the shirt. Of
Yeah,
their
yeah,
company,
yeah. Name the team. He's like, I went out all the time and for different riders, and that happens. Everybody pitches in, everybody helps out. It's a really cool part of the deal.
Was
And
Balut the only one that wouldn't wear a shirt?
I believe he didn't wear a shirt.
He didn't
yeah.
wear
Oh.
a shirt.
So Balut would wear a team, whatever team he was on, like the
Suzuki,
like
yeah.
his, like who he was hired from, but he would never wear anything but a Team America. And I remember he was Burner's mechanic.
Yeah, yeah.
And he refused. I hope I'm not wrong, but
No,
I
you're
believe,
right. You're
I
right.
believe I'm
Yeah.
correct. And he refused to wear anything Australian. He's just like, no,
Oh, it's great.
I cannot do this. and I'm like, come on, man. Like everybody else is doing it.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, I mean, even things have changed. Like back then, Burner and I were on the Suzuki team here, and Roger was our team manager. He was also the team manager of, Team USA. Things always slid down. We would struggled all day long thinking, what's going on? Yeah, you may or may not have found out that night what US was doing. that he really left out of our conversation of what we should do.
Okay.
So then the next day we
Hey, Raj.
do whatever Raj said to do.
Right. Oh, that's funny.
I remember it was Moose's. Like one
great.
of the years, in America, we really don't ride with Moose tires. We all use tubes. And so, yeah, Team USA had gone away from it. They were fine. They were finding traction. And Berner and I were just struggling. Couldn't ride these Moose. And then finally in the nighttime, he's like, you got the Moose still in. Yeah. You put them in there. They came from the U.S. You should take them out. Thanks, Raj. Thanks, Raj.
He knew that 12 hours earlier. Right. He led on, yeah.
His team was starting first. We were about fifth or sixth.
Yeah.
Wasn't Jade Dungy Marv's mechanic, I think, when they won in 2015?
I don't remember.
He was someone on France.
Okay, yep.
Who else would have been?
Frankie would have been involved then, probably?
Yeah, they were over there. They were on the French team. They beat America by like 2 points. And I'm like, there's Jade and Frankie helping Marv.
Yep.
It's a really funny thing.
It's what makes this event really cool. It really is.
Yeah.
Like for what Chad was saying. It's awesome to see everybody come together. And again, like talking about Lars Lindstrom being your mechanic and St. Jean Angeli and Oscar being your mechanic. I mean, Lars is now the team manager at HRC Honda, which is amazing. But I knew him when he was, just a test guy. And then Oscar is a crew chief over at Monster Energy Kawasaki. Two people that were such a big part of your program. And man, it's cool to see that look, they did it on their own, but with some help from you and things that you've taught them and showed them, and it's really cool to see.
No, it is cool. And Lars has to be a little more neutral this weekend. I didn't see him in Team Australia because he's got Joe.
Yeah.
So I mean, he's got a tougher job this weekend. I think he was very still red.
And Shane Drew worked for you for a little while at Team 2-2. He's over back at Honda. So your legacy of that is a lot of people that you've helped out with your team.
Like all my guys are spread out amongst factory teams. So
Dean Gibson.
Dean's the engine guy at Kawasaki. So a lot of guys. I can walk in any tent.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's right.
Absolutely.
You mentioned Joe. We got any Joe Shimoda fans here? You guys like Joe Shimoda? He's become a real crowd favorite as of late, and he's going to race a 450.
Yeah.
That could be something.
I think that'll be look, he's riding really well right now. Joe could legitimately be a top 5 guy. I think that.
I say that I think Joe is a sleeper for this weekend. I don't know his team is deep enough, but I really think that Joe's going to be interesting to see. I saw Joe 2 years ago when he was on Kawasaki. He rode a PC 450, and he just had a flow. Like Joe's not a big rever. He kind of uses power, and a couple of the Instagram videos that he showed this week, and we all know the Honda is very competitive. I mean, Hunter and Jed have proved that. So
not bad.
I think Liam Everts for the same reason.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy
Liam
uses
as well.
the torque.
I think Liam's on a 350.
450.
He's on a
Is he
450.
actually
He was on a
450?
350 a couple of years ago. This weekend he's on a 450. And we talked to his team manager, Rasmus, and he was telling us, like, on a 250, he doesn't seem to carry his corner speed really well. That's a weakness. But on the 450, that's working out for him because he's coming in and he's hitting it hard to get out.
Yeah.
Rasmus is, like, really impressed with his 450 skills. Liam Everett. So,
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I'm excited. I think that there's some guys that can surprise us on the big bike.
Awesome. All right, we're going to take a break. Adam Wheeler, thanks for stopping by. A real journalist.
Yes, a classy.
Much classier than us.
Way classy. He wrote a book.
He wrote a book. That's more than we could say. Chad, stick around. We're going to take a commercial break. Let's get one more round of applause. We'll be right back here live from Monster Energy Motocross of Nations. Welcome back to the show. We have another guest joining us on stage, and this one's personal for me because I was at, Steve, you know this.
Yes.
I was at Unadilla in 1987, Team USA to win streak. They finally had the race on home soil, and it looked like they were going to lose. Until the second moto, when this man crushed everybody and then did it again in Moto 3, saved Team USA. Let's hear it for the bad boy, Rick Johnson.
Woo! A legend.
Yeah, it's a legend.
I was at RJ's last ever Supercross win, Miami '89.
Oh, yeah.
I was there.
Winningest Supercross rider ever at that time.
Yes, past Bob Hanna that night.
At that time.
Hey, how many people can say they were the winningest Supercross rider ever? There's like 5 guys that have ever been at the top of the list. It's pretty good.
You know what else I remember about that night? And I was a 15-year-old kid or a 14-year-old kid. I don't remember.
Easy.
But you were in the pits. The pits were empty. You just won. You were still out there signing shit.
Yeah.
You were signing anything for anybody. And I was like, dude, that is the coolest dude ever.
Well, and Chad,
I witnessed it. Yeah.
Chad can attest to this because the fans, just like here, they get a little rowdy sometimes, which is good, but we're there to do a job. And so you're going down to start the race, and people are hanging over the thing going, sign this. And if you start 1, it starts 10. So I would say, come after the race, I'll be here all night. And I would. Sometimes it's San Diego or Anaheim and stuff, home crowd and that. I was there late
Yeah.
into the night and trying to defend my stuff, not getting my helmet stolen and shit like that. But as Chad knows, you're there to do a job first. So you got to tell the fans, hey, I love you, thank you for your support, but let me do what I'm here to do first, and then after that, I'm all yours.
We talked about this race with Chad and Jeff Emig and everything else. RJ's from the era where it was like, hey, man, we got to go to Des Nations and absolutely kick everyone's ass.
I mean, pretty much.
Like, we're just going to go there. We're going to claim this trophy. Wardy, do you want to win or I win? Or
Yeah, who gets second in the moto out of the two of us?
Those were the days.
Well, and rightfully so, because Chad's part of a new generation. He started watching the videos, started watching, all the riders coming up, and then he evolved his game, came to America, and was one of the dominant guys, was the guy. And I think he evolved the knee forward, off the triples, and there was a lot of innovation from him. And I'm not saying that because he's here, but it's a fact. But for us in '86, we were so far ahead of the game when it came to Supercross and Supercross techniques, because, Chad, you can attest, you mix and match. Now they're making this big thing about the Lawrence brothers, like quadding down a hill into the whoops. We've been doing that since we started Supercross. But when you take those techniques to a track like Majora, where there's tabletops, and we were scrubbing, not as good as James, but we were scrubbing and doing things like that. So when we did that, and then also we were so comfortable on our bikes, except Osho. Osho hadn't ridden a 125 all year long and was just a superstar. I mean, he came out with something to prove. He lost his ride the week before that, and he came after me full tilt. He wanted to win. And so really a lot of the greatness that came from '86 was Johnny O'Mara. I got to say it.
But also, you're saying the Supercross thing got ahead of the game. Now, Chad, you came over here saying Jeremy McGrath was my hero. So by the time your age comes along, you're able to watch enough American Supercross to have the exact same techniques that the Americans had.
Yeah, it's funny that you talk about watch, because the first video of VCR that I ever had.
Okay.
RJ, help me out here what it was called.
Profile of a Champion.
But it was these Honda videos.
Oh.
At the Honda track.
Yeah.
In the mountains in California.
Yeah, Simi Valley.
And so I just remember, I don't know how I got this video or this VCR at the time, but I literally wore it out until it didn't work anymore. And I just watched RJ over and over and over. So my introduction as an Aussie kid into America was Ricky Johnson.
Nice.
And Rick has been so rad to me from the day I got here. He was doing some TV at the time, and he's just always been supportive and cool. And you're like, don't meet your heroes. You can meet your heroes.
Well,
they're badass.
Thank you.
Well, Chad took his out. Chad took his hero out at Paris.
No, but
at Paris.
But that's
he
what
was
I got to
in the
say.
way.
Right. No, but that's the thing. And so I interviewed Chad, and he said something to me that I knew he was the right guy for the job. You said, my dad said everybody bleeds. He's not inhuman. And so what he had to do, which I had to do to Hannah, Stanton had to do to me, Lachine had to do to me, that you have to go after the alpha male. And Jeremy was the alpha male, and you're like, sorry, bro, I love you, but there's one first place, and so I gotta rough you up. And so when he said that, he goes, everybody bleeds. I'm thinking, all right, I love this, because he came over with his wife and didn't have an entourage, and I feel he attacked it like a man. Not taking anything away from anybody now, but it's hard. I mean, imagine being a young guy with your wife going to America and taking on them at their sport. That'd be like me going to play Australian rules football in Australia, and I don't know anybody, and I did my thing down there. So big kudos to him. I'm not just trying to pump him up because he's here, but I've always been a huge Chad Reed fan because, as I said, watching it, and I want to ask you, when you watch these things, like for me as a kid, I could feel it. Like when I see somebody do something like, I can do that. It's like when you see somebody jump a triple or blitz, whoops, we saw Keith Bowen do it the first time, kind of an accident. I'm like, fuck, it's possible. So if he can do it once, I got to be able to do it. Was that the same for you?
And that was the evolution of watching your videos and seeing how you did it, talking about nutrition and talking and riding and body positioning to then, the McGrath era of the 90s.
Yep.
That was when I was 11, 12, wanting to race Supercross in America, and I fell in love with Jeremy McGrath because his style, he made it look easy. You know, I mean, just it wasn't, he wasn't crashing a lot. It was beautiful. Everything you could say, like the whole look, it was just cool.
Yeah, he was
And-
100%.
And he took that level, and that was what I wanted to replicate. Like a lot of, I think in his style of riding, maybe I'm just an evolution of that from watching it over and over and over. So yeah, no, I think that people should be students of the game.
Yep.
I remember I was working for Nick Way in 02. We were at the Yamaha track. We got to ride there. So you're riding West Coast 250s before the Yamaha Troy kicks off.
It's actually 125.
Yeah,
but
125s. And we're at the Yamaha track, and you're over there. I knew you from the Paris thing and all that, so I knew you were good. But the aggressiveness that you rode with, I remember, like, it was kind of like a normal practice day, guys going through their routines, and you were just, like, first of all, you'd rev the bike in the air before you landed, like, wide open, and then you'd just be, like, on the downside and aggressive, and we're like, dude, this guy, like, he's hungry, man. He is aggressive. That's what stood out to me, where we were like, this guy, wow, he's legit. And it was aggressiveness to me that stood out.
Well, and if you watch the history of the sport, it has hammers, then style, then hammers and style. And what's hard is that Jet can do both. I mean, he is so smooth and so connected with the throttle. He's got that Bailey style. He's got that Jean-Michel Bale style, but he doesn't get tired at the end of the moto. But in the middle of the race, he can literally pull 2 seconds off his lap, like four laps in a row. So it's going to be hard to figure out the Jet Lawrence puzzle because he's pretty phenomenal.
And he's just been a student, and
Yeah.
he's seen all the greats do it, and he's literally replicating each one of them. I was at the St. Louis SMX race, and everyone talks about, his RPM's really low, and it's like I agree, but then when he needs to rev it, because there's times that you need to rev it, to rotate the bike or get it to move, in the air, you get the thing spinning up, you can rotate a bike in the air more. Jet's coming out of the tunnel and he's like on the rev limiter. And it's funny because everyone only sees the nice part. And it's like there's another part that he's doing that's really special too.
Darren Lawrence mentioned that. When Darren says when he needs to go, we know he's got it in them. But it's like he doesn't pull it out all the time until he needs it. And then it's like, wait, wow, this kid can do it. And that's what he said. Hunter lacks that. Turn the brain off. I got to go. He's just older. A Jet can do it.
He's been through a lot more. And when you have an older brother that I think gives you noogies and beats the shit out of you when you're growing up and stuff like that, it makes you a tougher kid. I know our daughter, she started riding bicycles when she was 2 because her older brothers were doing it. They didn't teach her. She's just like, I'm going to do it. And so that's what you see that. But the thing that always impressed me was I was out at Paula coaching another kid, and I walked over and talked to Trey and Johnny, and Jet was there, and I introduced myself. He didn't know who I was, but no big deal.
He doesn't know who a lot of guys
but
are,
that's
so
okay.
don't feel bad.
I don't take offense to that. But anyways, I just talked to him. I said, you know what, dude, I really admire, he was 18. I really admire you because I think you have the finesse of Johnny O'Mara, but you kind of have the bulldog of me, and you got a little bit of everything. So I said, I enjoy watching you race. And he said something that I knew the world was in trouble. He goes, I was out testing Trey's bike, and I just can't quite feel the front wheel like I can with my setting. I wanted it a little bit softer, and I'm thinking, uh-oh. I didn't feel that till I was like 2 championships deep, running the front wheel the way he can run the front wheel, and that connection with the ground. So I think it's not just a matter of being a phenomenal rider, which he is, but I think he's communicating with the Honda engineers who are arguably the best in the world to tell him what he wants and what he wants to do. So when I heard that at 18, I'm like, when he's 22, this is going to be pretty amazing, and that's what we're watching right now.
I do think I've interviewed Chad. I've interviewed a bunch of riders. Weeds, you have too. When you interview Jet and you ask him about a move or a pass or a line or what about when this guy got you, you don't get a lot back. He doesn't really give up.
Overthinking it.
Yeah, he doesn't. Like I always felt like with you or like a lot of the riders, hey, yeah, I was in third and I saw his leg in that corner dab it and I knew I could get him and blah, blah, blah. With Jet, I feel like, I don't know if it's on purpose or not, but he's just like, yeah, I just had to wick it up, and you're just like, yeah, but what about that pass? Yeah, I saw an opening. Yeah. And you're like, I need more, but I don't know if he's got more.
Ricky
what is that?
Carmichael tells us all the time. We talk about this in all these meetings we have all week about the other riders who say all that stuff, and Ricky always says, he's like, I'm hearing a lot of thinking about thinking.
Okay.
And not just riding. A lot of thinking about thinking.
Yeah, Jet just doesn't really know what he's doing, but or tells us he doesn't know what he's doing. But he does.
I don't think it's a game. I think that he's a savant. I mean, 100%. Like, I think a lot of the riders, like I struggled with reading because I see the world in pictures. Like I can tell you about the color of the dirt, the rock. Even today, when I'm racing the ball, that's why I wear glasses, so my vision is sharp again. I can see minute little things, but I see the world in pictures, not in words. So that's where I struggle. We just been with me. When I go to read script, I get stuck on the words that there's not a picture, and it sounds kind of weird and all that, but I think a lot of top guys struggle with that because they're right side, they're artistic. They see things like Chad's watching a VHS of Riders in America, and he's like, okay, that's kind of doing this, but what if I tucked my knee a little forward? And what you see what I mean? So he's taking the process and taking it further, and right now I think we're seeing the best out of it out of Jet Lawrence. I don't know if that's a long answer to maybe a short question, but do you agree?
I wouldn't underestimate Jet.
No, I don't underestimate
I think he's
that
much
kid.
more clever than you think.
Right,
Yes.
right. I think so too, and I think he's just saying that, and we're just like, we want more, but he's just not really telling us. Yeah.
His race IQ is really high.
I think any of you guys, either one of you, any champion, your race IQ, you got to have it. You have to.
And you've been racing sports cars, right? Or V8s?
Not recently, but a little bit. I spent some time.
But you see what I mean? So you take a motocross guy who motocross is undoubtedly the hardest sport there is because of the danger, because of the chances, because of the anaerobic, because of all the things that you got to do and manipulate the bike and do all the things that go into it. When you got into a car, it was easy, wasn't it?
It was the hard parts that you would think about, going wide open, doing 300,
300K, 200 miles an hour.
We're doing 200 miles an hour and smashing the brake and downshifting. I could do it better than the pros.
Right.
But then understanding where to brake to rotate the car was things I needed to learn. And as soon as I learned that part, like on a motorcycle, you have movement. You're not stuck in a car seat, right? I'm speaking to you. You understand what I'm talking about.
I know exactly what you mean.
And so I had to understand that I had a throttle, a brake lever, shifting, and a steering wheel. That were the only 4 things that I could utilize at my disposal.
Yep.
Riding a dirt bike, I have the clutch, the brakes, my head, my body, my
Your
legs.
knees, everything,
Everything. You can start moving everything around. And it was funny. It was a bummer that it came later in my career.
Yep.
Because and tell me what you think, the car racing actually helped me understand motorcycles better. And I actually what I would say, the apex from too fast in, too slow in, to middle to off.
Yep.
I understood the concept of that much clearer after doing car racing.
Because you couldn't use the clutch, you couldn't drop your shoulder, you couldn't do this. You had to come in, keep the thing from losing traction, going out. So your entry, your middle, and your exit, you're right on board. And I think it's, Weege and I, we talked about it. It's made me a better teacher. From driving stadium trucks to desert trucks to asphalt trucks to all the different stuff. All of it, you're just working. It takes so much energy to slow down, change direction, and come back the other direction. On a motorcycle, like he says, you can throw your ass off the back, get down. The one hole I feel in Ryan Dungey's game was he sat down too early and the back wheel was floating. But so when you're strapped in, you go, okay, I got to use my controls to control this. It just makes it a different deal. It makes you a better rider. Anyways, how did we end up on cars? That was my problem. My bad. Let's get back to motocross. You guys ready for that?
Motocross of Nations.
All right, let's talk.
I want to see if Chad knows this. Do you know in the early days of the MXDN, and one year Ricky did it, they rode 250s one week, stayed in Europe, and rode 500s the next week.
It was the other way around. 500s first, 250s.
Did you know that, Chad?
I did not know that.
Yes.
But that would have been fun.
Yes. So
it was.
In 1984, he rides 500s. He's not a 500 rider.
Yeah.
He doesn't ride 500s, but hey.
Wardy was a 120. Wardy and Romero 125 riders.
Right. So hey guys, Ward, you're 125 riders. While you're riding a 500 for Team USA, and the next week you're riding a 250 for Team USA. That was a crazy time.
And so you had 4 guys from each team. Imagine the size of the gate. And you had all the world champions. You had
all in the gate together.
Exactly. Everybody out there at the same
Second
time.
row
So
starts.
two row start.
It was still team event.
So if you look at our results, especially if you look at the 81 results, which I just saw that, like a 16th, 15th, and all the different stuff, you had to fight. So in the my bike seized in the first 500 moto. Second moto, I'm like, I'll start in the second row because I'm fresh. I didn't do a 45-minute moto like everybody else. I'll come from the back. Well, we all get into a crash. 3 of us are in the pile, but I ended up making it back to 7th, which was respectable.
Yeah.
And that was the one finish that helped us win the thing. So when you have that many guys, and once again, you're taking O'Mara and Wardy, 125 guys, even though they're both supercross guys. Here's 500s, and we did it. It was fun.
Right. That was an underrated time.
Imagine today, and I think the gap from a 125 to a 500 is much bigger
Yes.
than a 250F to a 450.
Oh, yeah.
Imagine today our vanilla sport
Exactly.
trying to take lights guys and put them on full
Oh,
50s.
or a 500 two-stroke.
They would-
You're 18.
they
You've never
would
ridden
come
one.
unglued.
Right.
No.
And also, you got to ride a YZ490. By
Exactly.
the way.
That's pinging and blows up on you. Well, but here's the thing. And some of the riders, it takes them a half a year to get used to a bike.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm still working it out. I'm like,
How many times did you ride the 490 before you went?
I think
Little as possible.
3 days, I think.
Three days.
It was a pile of shit, but my teammate Brock Glover ripped on those things.
Yeah.
Dude, I remember if you watch videos of that, there's like 80 bikesters, 100 in the moto.
Yeah.
There is so much smoke on the starting line. It's like if you're in the back row, could you even see?
No,
it's like a
not at
cloud
all.
of smoke.
No, you're just high as a kite.
That YZ490, Damon Bradshaw, I love to say it, started with 60 horsepower, ended with 30.
Exactly.
Yeah, by
and
the
it would just it would ping so bad. Well, and that's what happened. My bike blew up on the second lap because of the different gases, the gas.
Yeah.
I got another Desnations questions for
Yes.
you, RJ. And you, how really, truthfully, and Ronnie Lachine has told the stories, but in '88, were you guys really worried about him?
100%.
Okay.
100%. So
that was a real thing.
So he came from racing in Holland, and I'm like, uh-oh. he just did a supercross in Holland. And so Wardy and
Getting out of
I,
events,
so
yeah.
it was great because, Hannah would make fun of us that we were gay or whatever, but Wardy and I would truly work together at that race. We would go run together.
Yeah.
We would help each other. There's a picture of me like rubbing his shoulders before the race, a guy that I tried to kill all year long, but I loved it because now I'm an open book and I can help him as much as I can. And so I go by and I see Ronnie's friend that we grew up with there, and he's sitting there with a pizza box and a liter of Coke or something like that, and he's rolling a joint. And I'm like, and I see Ronnie sleeping on the bed. I'm like, uh-oh.
Oh, man.
Oh, no. If they pee test us, we're in trouble. But I don't know. I didn't see Ronnie smoking weed, but it was in the vicinity. So
Okay.
we had some concerns, but Ronnie was the hero.
Yeah.
So and this is what you know about this race. It's about sacrifice. Of course, I want to win. My ego's there. I want to win every race, and that's why I'm doing this gold medal for these guys. But if the team wins, we're good. And I knew that I was in great shape, that I could come from the back. And I also knew with the 2-row start on the 500, it was like massive long. I said, there's no way I can get the whole shot. And so I'm going to screw Ronnie and I both. So let Ronnie go, and then I'll work my way. And I did. So I ended up getting third behind Ronnie and Herlings.
Herring.
Yeah, Rob Herring.
Herring.
And so every English guy reminds me of that.
Yeah.
I never lived that one down, but we won it. We won the championship as a team. So that's what this thing is about. It's about maybe I need to rub this guy a little bit on the start to bring him back to win the race, whatever it might be.
It brings back memories of there's so much more. There's more of a game than people realize.
Exactly.
In 2011, I believe the USA had qualified first. We were second. And so I forget it was first moto. I think it was Matt Moss and myself. Dungey, I want to say it was maybe, I don't know, Tedesco maybe? No,
The 250 guy?
Yeah.
Was Baggett.
Baggett. So they're there. And so our team orders were, we had talked, and I'm like, whatever the U.S. doesn't do, if Dungey goes to the gate first, then we're going to do the opposite. If they send their lights rider to the gate first, then I'm going to go and give myself the better opportunity, start next to the lights guy, and try to get out in the way and whatever. So we were kind of in this situation where we were going to do the opposite. And so then they send Baggett, and then they stage you in a 1-2, and you don't necessarily have to be 1-2, but we had put our lights guy in 1. And then I took off. You could see Dungey freaking out.
Oh, yeah.
He's just like, what the, and then I go and, start next to Baggett and for the majority of the 250 guys, and I was able to get the whole shot, win the moto. And it really helped us.
It's a strategy, right?
Strategy, because it was like the one moto, and the way it worked out is after that, Mossy's bike failed and didn't start. And I think back then they were having fuel pump issues or something. Anyway, he didn't even make the gate, so it would have sucked to not take the spot.
Can you imagine?
So luckily the way it worked out is I was the only one in the race anyway.
The bad luck of the bike breaking. We were talking about this before you were here, RJ, about the luck that it takes. You were part of this 13-year streak. Your bike broke. Still managed to win. Weren't you guys nervous? We have this big gap speed-wise. But what if someone gets hurt Sunday morning in practice? What if the bike breaks? There had to be these fears. It's one day and dumb stuff can happen. And it never did.
But hold on. Jeff Ward knocked himself out in practice. And so he had to sleep.
Finland, right?
Yeah, in Finland.
Or-
He had to sleep in my room, and I'm like, Wardy, don't fall asleep. You might die. He's like,
I don't think anyone
"I'm
knew
not
about this."
No, knocked himself completely cuckoo.
On
Didn't
the
know-
day before?
The day before. Didn't know where he was, all that. So Roger goes, I'm not going to do a Belgian impression, but he goes, Rick, Wardy needs to stay with you. Make sure he doesn't fall asleep. I'm like, dude, I want to sleep. You know what I mean? And so literally, Wardy, you okay? Yeah, I'm okay. All night long we did that.
Yeah.
And so he was cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, yeah.
And was raced well enough the next day.
And raced well enough, yeah.
And that year, Brock stepped in for David.
Yep,
for
stepped
1
in for
week.
David. So David,
Yeah.
so Brock came over, was actually in Finland with us because he was the backup guy, and then we were all on the ferry. We went to Sweden. He did a Supercross like on Thursday night, won that, and then David's like, I can't ride, my wrist hurts too bad, and so then he jumped on the 250 and had a phenomenal race.
Cliff White worked for Brock Glover.
And he says those guys are so much better than I thought because this pile of shit. I can't believe he races this thing because it was bone stock. It was a stock bike with a cylinder and forks and shock. That's all it was.
No, there's a photo of him, stock bars.
Yeah.
No crossbar pad.
Nope.
Stock bars, Brock's just like, I'm going to race.
I'm going to race.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, my
Good
gosh.
times.
We're going to take another commercial break here. Let's have a round of applause for Chad Reed, everybody. Thanks, Chad. Always fun to have you at the races. We're going to take a break, and we're going to talk to RJ and another special guest right after this. Oh, we're back. We're back.
A second.
Oh, we're ready to say something real bad.
PG.
Welcome back.
Raw
We
machine
have
stories.
we've already got a bunch of stories about you from him, but we're going to get it live now. Let's hear it for the Grand Marshal this weekend, Jeff Ward.
I don't know.
7-0
Yes.
in Team USA appearances.
I don't think people understand that. 7-0.
7-0.
Jeff Ward,
I
everybody.
just want to thank Alpine Stars, FMF, ASV, Levers, and Maxxis for backing our show. 7-0, different bikes, every displacement there was. And to the point you just made, some years you were the guy that had to win it for the team. Some years you were the guy that had to be consistent. Maybe he was trying to win it. I think 85, you did the job for sure.
Right.
Every role you had to play, you played.
Yeah, it's a different race for sure. I mean, there's times when you're out there. Of course, we all want to win the overall, but you get a sign from the chalkboard. We're good.
Yeah.
So you're like, oh, but I could get that guy.
Yeah.
Overall.
Yeah.
So you don't want to be that guy to go down and ruin it. So there's a lot of times you just suck your ego up and
Well, talking
finish third.
Talking about that, in 88, you and him are 1-2, and they're like, yeah, Wardy, get on a 125. Were you like cool? Were you like no problem? Were you?
He wasn't happy about
what
it.
Oh, okay. He wasn't happy.
I mean, he
Okay.
wasn't completely stoked about it, but you had to do the math. You go, RJ 185, Dogger about 185. Wardy?
Yeah.
I think this fits you a little bit
Okay.
better.
All right, but
well,
you did it.
the
yeah.
reasoning behind that is because in '86 I was offered to go on a 125 to Majora, and at that time that's when the production roll came out from the factory bikes, and our 125 was
Not-
no bueno.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm like, I don't want to be the weak link. I didn't feel like I was going to help the team. And I mean, at the time there was Mickey Diamond,
Yeah.
who was the champion,
Yep.
which who I thought was going to go.
Yep.
And then they ended up taking Omar. So when the opportunity came in '88, I wanted to ride the 500, of course.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then I got demoted, and then Ricky's got the 250. So I'm not passing this up. And we had a good 125 because I think Matasevich was
Yep.
Yeah.
Supercross and the bike was fast, and I hadn't ridden a 125 in 4 years. So
Did you find it was okay? Like, were you all right? Like, I think you did all right. I think you won.
did great.
You won a moto. Your class.
I won the overall.
Yeah, you won the
Yeah.
overall.
I
right?
beat
yeah.
Jean-Michel
Jean-Michel
Bale was
Bale,
world
right.
champion,
Right.
and it was in France.
Oh yeah. Hey,
Yeah, not bad.
Yeah, not bad.
Not bad.
Yeah,
He beat
yeah.
the world champ real
Right,
quick.
right.
And,
Yeah.
Well, I took him out in the second moto.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
On purpose?
Well,
Well,
he was there. I
he
was
didn't
there.
he didn't shut off. So let's just say
Okay.
that. He didn't.
Okay.
And as Ricky will probably contest to, there was a lot of booze going on.
Oh,
Oh,
being
yeah?
in France,
Yeah, yeah.
and then him
Yeah.
being the world champ. So we got out of there, barely
Yeah.
alive. But
We had-
that was the story I was hearing with Ronnie.
Dogger.
And the,
I was just asking how worried.
Well, it was
You
worried,
really were.
worried enough that I peed in a bag for him
Yeah,
so he could have it.
we had jars
Wow.
of pee. I had a couple of mine.
Yeah.
Because I knew mine was clean. Wardy knew his was clean. It's like if something happens, Ronnie, stuff this in your pants so it's body
Yeah.
temperature and go.
Dogger, dude.
Wow, we're learning a lot
Yeah,
right
we
now.
are.
The statute of limitations is over.
He went 1-1 on a 500 that day.
He was
just
fast.
spent it, yeah?
He was
That's
flying.
That's Ronnie. He was
That-
he was probably in his best condition compared to some other times I've seen him. and still won.
Right.
Steve always loves to tell the story of your teammates that you had at one point. Some of the guys that you were the chicken on the team.
Well, Jimmy Weiner.
No, yeah,
Oh,
okay,
Weiner
no,
too?
Jimmy Weiner.
Weiner,
But we
yeah.
used to
I used
laugh,
to- I used
RJ,
to stay
because
in his room.
Roy Turner would be like, "Hey, Wardy, hardest working guy out there, gnarly trainer, such a straight and narrow. We're going to team you up with Ron Lachine, and we want you to keep him on a straight and narrow."
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, listen, Ronnie's done. We got chicken. So can you please guide like poor Wardy? Like, I'm not a babysitter, man.
Well, and Roy Turner courted me all year long, and Wardy didn't even know this. I tested the Kawasaki's. I was ready to go.
What year was this?
For 80, all through 85. I was done with Yamaha.
Yep.
And Wardy and I were supposed to be teammates. And then they signed Ronnie when he got in trouble with Honda because he was a little younger, and that's how it happened.
Can you imagine an 85 team? 86 team?
Teammates.
Although
Yeah.
Cowie in
Solid.
86 wasn't.
No, he made a good choice.
I made a good choice.
He made a good choice.
But the Cowie was good. It was a lot better than the Yamaha at the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a bad bike, but I think our Hondas were better.
Speaking
Yeah.
of Dogger, he told me he took his 86 Cowie, put the 85 Honda Works Forks on there, and rode that for a while until Turner made him take it off. So he was.
There you go.
Oh my gosh. He just told the story. I don't know if you heard it that I had never known about. You crashed, knocked yourself out the day before.
Finland.
Yeah.
And Saturday.
Yeah.
How'd that go?
I was
He
out for
doesn't remember.
I was out for about 3 minutes, I think, 4 minutes. Wasn't my first concussion or being knocked out, so
Oh jeez.
when I got up, I was just worried about getting back on the bike and how long's practice left, and
Right.
but I did have to stay in Ricky's room, and I was throwing up all night, and during the race,
Yeah.
throwing up while I raced, and I led the first moto on the 584, and really like you said, I don't ride 500s, and so then I led for maybe 3 or 4 laps to go. Mallarb got by me in a sand track, which I'm not the greatest in sand. So I got second the first moto, and basically I said, I'm done. You guys I'm not, my moto is going to be the throw-out moto. So
Yeah.
we're throwing up. I'm throwing up between motos, and then this guy brings us
The caffeine
a
pill the
caffeine
size
pill.
of this. Roger goes, I know this Tour de France bicycle guy. He's like, you want to try this? And
Oh, geez.
Wardy like, that's sure, why not? We
can't
toss
hurt.
it.
I don't
Can't
feel
feel any
it. I
worse.
can't hurt. It can't hurt.
Next thing you know, we're gacked out on the start. I'm like, Wardy, I feel good. Don't you feel good? He's like, I feel great. I feel great. I feel really good. Man, I've got a lot of energy right now. Then after the race, we're both there going, "Blah," throwing up all over the place. But we won.
Like you said, the first turn, I was still saying I'm done. I
Yeah.
couldn't give any more. It was 40-minute motos
Yeah.
plus 2, whatever it was. And so I go into the first turn, and I go down. I was on the high side, and I went down, and I was just like, I didn't care. Because I was just like, so I go to get my bike up, and then I look over, and there's Ricky laying down, and there's Bailey laying down.
Oh my gosh.
And I was the first one to get up,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I have to take off and try to get a moto score. I don't even know if
Damn.
I know we used Ricky's, and I don't know if they used mine that moto, but
7-0. You crushed it. What was the week before Finland or the week after?
it was in
Sweden.
Sweden.
Sweden. You
On the
crushed
250s.
One of
Yeah,
your best
crushed it,
rides
yeah.
ever. Yeah,
I
you
agree.
crushed it in Sweden. But I want to obviously let's set aside Unadilla 87 because that is ultimate. That was awesome coming through with Hurricane in the mud. But Wardy, what was your other favorite to MXDN? Do you think? I mean, was it that Sweden ride? Was it another one that stood out? Yeah.
Well, Sweden, of course, but other than that, like the 500 in Gildorf, I think it was.
89?
Yeah, in 89.
89, yep.
Thorpe and I were going at it.
Yep.
I beat him the first moto, and then the second moto I crashed, but still just the atmosphere, and it was pretty
Was that
cool.
your last one?
No, I rode 90 the next year.
Oh, in Sweden?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay,
With
all right.
Bradshaw,
Yeah.
and he cartwheeled.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
You have a
And-
shock blowout or something,
I had a shock blowout.
but you still toughed it
I
out.
still got like second.
That's where Jeff
Or something.
Stanton put the gherkins
We
in.
were not going to win that race until Stanton caught whoever was leading like 20 seconds behind and
Yeah.
took him out on the last lap in the back,
Yeah.
cleaned him out.
Yeah,
Gosh.
Jeff said it was
So-
one of the dirty ones he's ever
Oh,
done.
it was.
But
Yeah.
hey, you got
gotta
to
do
win.
it.
Sometimes, yeah, you got to
Right.
do what it takes.
I
but-
always find it like we just talked about these stories. Wardy staying in RJ's room, RJ giving him back rubs. Like,
Peeing in a cup for
like-
each other.
yeah,
That
not
is
in the
real
room, though. It
camaraderie.
was on the
I
starting
did-
line.
yeah. I'm
That's
starting
what
line.
I'm
No, yeah. But,
Yeah,
what I'm getting at is like
close.
as
for
much
another show.
as much as much as our guys today, and they are some of the teammates, some of them are not teammates. I just don't see our guys
No.
doing like even though they come together for this race and it's so special, it's cool. I think you guys, because I mean, look, it was 1A and 1B, 1A, 1A, whatever
Right.
year you want to talk about it. I don't feel like our guys would be as tight as you guys with your rivalry back
Well,
then. Like I don't know. I just feel like it's
It
a
was
special
so
time.
new for the American team winning that we were so wanting to keep it going after the Honda
Yeah.
guys won the first 2 years, and then we it just seemed like we really need to work
But
together.
I'm sure you guys hated each other.
Oh, we did.
Mid-season, right?
But let's back up. So when I met Wardy, he was my hero. I mean, J&B Honda, he was the guy from Orange County that was on the Minicycle App magazine and all that stuff. And then I was always 9 to 11. He was always 12 and over. So we never really raced against each other, but we had a common friend named Brian Antonacci down in Lakeside. So Wardy would come down, stay at his house. We'd go boogie boarding and hang out and do all the different stuff. So we were friends.
Oh, I didn't know this.
We were
Did not know
friends,
this.
and then I was, we raced together in '81 on 125s, but I only won one race, and I wasn't up with you guys. But then in '84, I went to 250, so we saw each other in Supercross. But so we never really had any bad blood until '86.
Mm-hmm.
So what was cool that I loved about this race is that I could get my friend back. Because I told this to Brock when I have a team man. So what? I got a bro crush on him, bro. And we started a podcast together. That's how much we dig each other. Anyways, so Brock was my teammate and everything, but I didn't tell him my lines. I had all these little secret places to pass and jump and what could I do and all this stuff. And I definitely didn't show him because I would look for where's he out on the track so he couldn't see me. But there it was like, I could just be an open book.
Yeah.
Hey, Wardy, look out here. Go down this far left. Go down this far right. You can clear that. It's starting to get hard. A little softer air pressure. Whatever it was, we were a complete open book to help each other win. And honestly, we didn't care. At Unadilla, I'm going to expand the story one. Going into the last round, we had to win. Somehow, I was up in the top 3 coming around the first turn on a 250. Keys Vanderven is out front. Wardy's on the inside of me. I'm coming around here, coming to that left-hander. I look at Wardy, and I give him like a nod, like, go ahead.
Okay.
And he looks back at me and goes, I'm like, okay, I'm on. So then I went after Vanderven and then messed him up because I needed to mess him up.
Yeah.
And then I think you passed him too.
Yeah, we did.
So we ended up going 1-2 in that race. And so that's what I loved about this race is that you're like the Lawrence brothers all the time.
I just don't know if that happens today. And I think it's
No,
a special
I don't.
time. It's a
The
special
guys
time.
are close, and like you said, some more than others,
Yeah.
and some people say there's too much camaraderie, but that's a whole nother level
Right, because
that I don't think you're
there's
getting.
about 3 years in America where both of you won. That's it.
Yeah.
Ronnie would get the odd win, but other than that, it was you two winning
that's-
everything.
Right.
And that's crazy to think about, and it
well,
coming
we,
together.
we think about like Chad and RC will tell
Yeah.
each other how heated that got because of the same thing. I wanted to win, you wanted to win. Of course we hated each other.
Yeah.
And you guys did on weekends.
Yeah.
But the fact that you could put it aside. But you bring up something interesting. It was still so new and fresh at that time
Right.
that made it easier.
A couple times, I think I won the. I didn't even know I won the. I didn't even care I won the overall in my class.
Yeah.
I didn't even know it until like
Yep.
after. You won with your 1-4.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah,
one,
yeah.
and so you didn't care. Where sometimes you'd be thinking, what do I got to get this motor to beat to get that overall for that class? Which you don't get anything except this year. Ricky's doing
Well,
a nice
perfect.
award for this.
See, this is
lead
why
out.
you guys are on a podcast together.
Exactly. So
Wait, what's happening?
Wardy did it. He did perfect transition. RJ, you have some awards that you've decided to put together for the event.
Well, I did it at Red Bud too. So when I was over helping Sebastian Tortelli, and we were in France when Ben Townley just dominated the open class. And I said to Wolfgang Serb, I was eating with him and Giuseppe Luongo, I said, why don't you guys celebrate the individual gold? Because in a perfect world, you have a different manufacturer with individual gold. You have a different country win individual gold. So you have advertising galore, and then you have the team as well. So it is a team sport, but you work your ass off as an individual, and you're taking the beating as an individual. You should be rewarded. So he said that day, he goes, we're going to do it from that point on. And they did, but I didn't feel they're doing enough. They give you a plaque, which trophies, what does your Unadilla trophy look like? You don't know. He doesn't care. It's up in the woods.
I have 3 trophies in my house.
That's it.
They're from the nations because they're crystal from Geldorf, 2 of them, and the other one was from France.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And then my IndyCar one. That's it.
Yeah.
That's 4
Three trophies. Four total.
3
So I
motorcycles.
thought, you know what? I'm going to give him something because I raced it with Saparides, and I want a watch.
Yeah.
And so I wear that watch, and someone either wants to make fun of me because it's a Rolex, and who do I think I am? And I say, well, I won it at Saparides. When I say that, I remember what the horns sounded like. I remember what the crowd sounded like. I remember what the race was like. I remember all of that, and it completely changes the conversation to you're an arrogant prick wearing a Rolex to that's badass.
Yeah.
And so I thought, you know what? We did a thing with Rockwell at Donations in Red Bud, and I'm like, so I worked with Tommy Duma for Tom Duma Fine Jewelry, and so I made kids are wearing necklaces again. So we made them charms that have MX MXGP, MX2, and Open. So each individual gold, I'm
that's cool.
going to give an award with myself and Tommy Dooman, and it's got the Bad Boy Club on there. So
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
initiating them to the club.
Yeah, you're bringing that back. I see.
Yes,
You're
I
bringing
am.
some bad boy stuff back, which is so cool back in the day. It was amazing.
yeah.
It was awesome to see
We're
that.
having some fun.
And where the individual thing really pays off is you mentioned Townley specifically because not every rider is on a team that can win.
Yeah.
So we talk about Tim Geiser winning that Ultimate Moto
Yes.
last year. His team's not going to get on the podium likely or win, but at least he gets that. And there have been riders who are individually fast. Maybe they don't have a team to be in it, but they've got something to shoot for now.
Grant Langston, didn't
Yeah.
have the team to support him, won the 125, and what does he have? Nothing.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I thought, this is something that hopefully they don't throw away, and because all of this thing that's so great, all this money, all that, it's going to go away. Like Wardy and I are great friends. We call each other, we're like two grumpy old men. Your surgery, my surgery, this and that. Are you okay? I love you. Take care. Call me when you're out. Blah blah blah. All this stuff. But all of this hoopla is going to go away. And trophies are cool, and I don't have a trophy room like Wardy says he has 4 of them, but maybe they're going to go, you know what?
Yeah.
I remember when I got this, in 2025 it was hot as shit, I sweated my ass off, I had to work hard, I had to pass this guy. So that's the kind of thing that I thought, you know what? I'm doing this for them. At some point, they'll look at it and remember it.
Yeah, no, that's awesome.
And then for Wardy, you're named the Grand Marshal of this
Yes.
race because you're Mr. 7-0. So just talk about that experience and hanging out. You guys, Jeff Ward fans, respect that.
Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was cool. We just did the parade downtown.
Yep.
I was in this pink Chevy 1955
Okay.
Sting, whatever it was called.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, and it was really cool. It was fun. Did a little interview. A lot of people
Must have
there
been a
showed
cool
up.
phone call you got to be like, hey, we're going to
Yeah.
make you the Grand Marshal,
I mean,
yeah.
I was going to
It's
bring
taken
my
a
wife.
while.
I was going to bring my wife and kids, and my son just bought a house, and he was supposed to move in last weekend, and they changed it to this weekend. So everybody bailed on me, and then my daughter said the flight was too expensive, so I
Oh, boy.
soloed it.
So the family's really stoked.
Yeah, amazing. Give him a pendant. Give him a pendant.
Yeah, exactly.
By the way, when I was at that parade, I saw Jeff Stanton there. He told me something that blew my mind. So apparently the parade used to take place in the town near the track quite a bit. We've seen it more recently just here at the track.
Yeah.
So they moved it back to the town here. And Stan said you and him once rode your bikes in the parade?
Yeah,
your
we had
race
there's
bikes?
A couple. Yeah, we're doing some wheelies, and we had
In the town?
leather American flag jackets on. And
Here?
No, it was in Sweden the last 90.
90.
Bradshaw was there. Yeah, we were doing wheelies down the street. Racing bikes.
Oh, we were joking. We're like, can we get the Lawrences on their Hondas and they're just
Yeah.
going to ride
Yeah,
down the
cool.
street?
Just
To the, he said you rode from the track.
Yeah, I don't. He has a better memory than I do.
All
Like
right.
I said, I've been knocked out a few times. So
He didn't have a concussion the night before, then
maybe
race.
on that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
The week before.
Yeah. Okay, it was better.
Yeah.
Week before. Okay, week before. Sure.
What's
Anyway.
I was going to say,
Yeah.
what's your favorite Wardy story? Because we have this Re-Raceables podcast, and we make lots of jokes about Wardy. And the 2 stories we always go back to is he probably has a broken ankle in this race. Like, whatever
Yeah.
race it is, his ankle's probably broken.
Yeah, I was so
Right?
sick of that shit. He would dominate a race. They would get up there and bitch about, well, I got 2 separated ankles and a broken wrist. My collarbone is hanging on by a thread. I'm like, you know what? Fuck you. You won. Just be grateful. Just, God, why do you
I would have won by
stop?
more.
Yeah, you know about more.
I would have lapped Rick if I wasn't. I'm like, oh.
Sleeping at the doctor's office, sleeping at Spencer's
Well, we
place,
had one. There was
right?
one where you
Yeah.
randomly got like 8th, and we're like,
Yeah.
he definitely had a broken leg if he got 8th.
Yeah, because we were like, what happened to Wardy this race? He
So I
was
texted you, and you said, yeah, I was sleeping at Jeff Spencer's,
Spencer's. Yeah,
Yeah.
I went up to
Yeah.
Pasadena.
and then went to the airport
I
from
s-
his.
Yeah, when I came home from the race Monday morning, I went up there and I stayed 24/7 till the flight out.
In
Yeah.
Pasadena.
And he taped in Pasadena, and then he taped my ankle when I left in a cast.
so there's that story. Or I'm going to ride every single day.
For 100,
For 100
some days.
Yeah.
100
Unbelievable.
I'm going to ride every day. Even
100
if it's
days.
just like around a turn track or whatever. I'm going to ride every
I
day.
had to ride on Christmas. I had to ride on. It was John Osho and I. We were kind of fanatics on
Little
stuff
bit.
like that.
I just-
Stan got involved when he moved to California, where if somebody did this, you had to. It was just it kept going to
Kept-
where
yeah.
we did push-ups in airplanes on the way
Yeah.
home with Kehoe. How many we could do? Like 200 at once after the national.
Oh,
So,
geez.
and the stewardess was back there counting for us. The one time I was back there, and she was taking my tape off my ankle, You
The
know, after
stewardess
race.
was.
Yeah,
Oh.
I was in the back in the
What?
little jumper seat.
Was Jim Hawley around? Was
No,
Stewart?
no,
Oh,
that would have been
okay.
It would have
really
been would have been down one stewardess.
Again, it never fails with Hawley. You can bring Jim
Yeah.
up into everything. But no, you guys, yeah, I mean, it's just incredible what you guys did. I don't want to be the old man who walked uphill to school both ways. I
Yeah.
try not to be that way, but
That's pretty awesome.
and then the marathons the next day, and flying into Golden States from a Supercross
Yeah.
on Saturday night.
Yeah.
All of that stuff is so incredible when you think about the level that these two guys are at.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be like, hey, look, our generation was tougher, or I'm a little younger than you guys, but I don't want to be that guy. But somehow I turn
Pretty damn tough.
I turn into that guy
We do.
sometimes. I'm just like, do you know what RJ and Wardy did? Do you have any idea?
Motocross is just plain tough no matter when it was. Back
Yeah.
in Rogers' day.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh,
I mean,
my gosh.
There's no getting around that's what the sport does to you
Yeah.
physically and injury-wise. And every year the bikes, we're riding the bikes to the maximum of what that bike can do. And every era is doing the same
same.
thing.
Yeah.
You know, the speeds may not be the same. The jumps, I mean, we had some big jumps, and the
Yeah.
landings were horrible. That's why our ankles were
Yeah.
crap.
And
No
the boots were
transitions.
soft.
No
Jumps
landings.
are straight up.
Yeah.
No
Yeah.
landings.
The landing is the same steepness as the takeoff, and we hadn't learned how to tap the brake yet, so you either just cased it or you overjumped it. Right. So
I was an overjump guy. He was a kid.
I was like, yes,
That's why your ankles.
That's why the ankles are
There's
so
also
bad.
a photo of Wardy sitting on a block of ice.
Yeah, sitting in a block of ice
Yeah.
because of the
Broke my
tailbone.
Tailbone, yeah,
Tailbone,
tailbone.
yeah.
Red bud.
We got to wrap it
Yes,
here soon.
snapped it.
Okay.
There's a famous photo of you at New Jersey jumping the jump with foot off the peg. Was
Favorite
that 'cause it
picture.
was
Into
cool?
the corner, yeah.
Was it because it was cool because your ankle hurt?
No,
No,
there was
the
a
turn.
There was
It was
a
just
turn.
to set up for it.
It went into a tunnel, so
Yeah.
you landed, and there was the inside rut, and you could land with
Ah,
the
classic.
corner,
One
yeah.
finger on the brake and trail the front brake around.
Yeah.
I saw that. I'm like, I'm doing that.
Ah, there we
yeah,
go.
that's
I
it.
love it.
Yeah.
Well, we love how this works. Rivals, and you got the war stories together, and you got your show together, and share it with us. That's cool, too. We'll
Yeah.
even bring you back. You want us to bring these guys back tomorrow? That's right. That's going to do it for the first night of our live show. We were going to go to 8:30, and this is exactly what we've done. That's Jeff Ford. That's Rick Johnson. That's Steve Matthes. I'm Jason Weigandt. Thanks to our sponsors. It's Alpine Stars, FMF, ASV, and Maxxis. Monster Energy, Motocross of Nations. We'll see you tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. Thanks for watching.